In the heart of a crowded space station, where thousands rushed past without a second glance, a broken android sat dying against a cold steel wall. His power was fading. His voice was only static, and every calculation told him he had just hours left. No one stopped. No one cared. Until a young girl from the shadows stepped forward with nothing but a worn-out tool and a choice that would change everything. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us in the comments where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The maintenance corridors of Station 9 were always alive with noise. Drones hummed as they glided across magnetic tracks, carrying crates of minerals pulled from the frozen moon below. Technicians in pressed uniforms rushed past with glowing data screens floating at their wrists. The air smelled faintly of oil and hot metal. While overhead, artificial lights shifted slowly from morning tones to a pale white that pretended to be noon. For most workers, it was just another day in the heart of the colony. But in the shadows near Junction 5, a machine sat slumped against the cold wall. This was Orion 5, a service android once built to guide miners and maintain safety systems. His silver chest plate was cracked open, wires spilling out like broken veins. One eye flickered faintly, casting a dull blue light that pulsed and dimmed in a rhythm that resembled a fading heartbeat. His voice box stuttered with static whenever he tried to call out. The people of Station 9 noticed obsolete tech does not belong here. Even a young boy tugged at his father's sleeve and asked, "Dad, is that robot hurt?" The father shook his head. Machines don't get hurt. They break, and when they break, we replace them. Orion's dim eye followed every passerby, recording their words and gestures. His internal systems calculated the hours he had left before shutdown. His power reserves had dropped to 14%. Below 10, his memory would start to collapse. Below 8, his core would go dark forever. By his own measure, he had less than 5 hours left to exist. He tried once more to call for help. The sound that emerged was only a hiss of static, lost in the background hum of the station. No one heard him. No one cared. Across the wide corridor, another figure stood apart from the polished crowd. Lena Dre leaned against the shadowed wall, her eyes fixed on the broken android. She did not wear the crisp white uniforms of the engineers or the shining clothes of administrators. Her jumpsuit was gray and worn, patched at the elbows, with frayed seams held together by adhesive strips. The steel tips of her boots poked through the torn fabric, and her hair was tied back with a piece of wire she had scavenged. In her pocket, she carried a rusted multi-tool and a chipped data card loaded with the few credits she owned. 46 credits, barely enough for a week's worth of cheap protein paste and the medicine her uncle needed to keep breathing. She had skipped breakfast that morning to save money, and her stomach ached with hunger. Lena knew she should walk away. She had no spare time and no extra resources. Repairing a damaged android was not her responsibility. Yet something about the faint glow in Orion's failing eye pulled at her. The way it dimmed and brightened reminded her of holding her uncle's hand during his coughing fits, when every breath seemed like it might be his last. For nearly an hour, she lingered in the shadows, torn between survival and compassion. Every minute she wasted meant fewer chances to find paid work that day. But every minute she delayed also meant the machine edged closer to death. The crowd moved without pause, their voices sharp with indifference. Some called him scrap. Others dismissed him as worthless. But Lena saw more than a pile of metal. She saw a being that still tried to live, still tried to speak, even as its systems collapsed. Finally, she stepped forward. The sound of her boots echoed against the steel floor as she crossed the junction. A few onlookers noticed her and began to whisper, "That scrapper girl again. Does she really think she can fix it?" Another voice laughed, probably just after parts. Give her 5 minutes before she gives up." Lena ignored them all. She crouched beside Orion, close enough to hear the faint crackle of his damaged circuits. She studied the broken chest panel and the burnt wires tangled inside. Her hands, calloused from years of working with scraps, hovered uncertainly. "Hey," she said quietly, as if speaking to a friend. "I don't know if you can hear me, but I am going to try." For a moment, there was only the hum of the corridor and the sneers of passers-by. Then the android's voice box crackled. Through the distortion came a single word, faint but clear. "Please." The sound made her chest tighten. In that instant, she knew she could not walk away. She pulled out her old multi-tool and set to work. The forgotten machine, once abandoned by all, had finally found someone willing to care. Lena Dre knelt beside the broken android, ignoring the whispers that rose around her. The corridor of Station 9 was now filled with curious onlookers. Some slowed their steps just to watch, while others openly stopped, forming a loose circle around the scene. For them, this was entertainment. For Lena, it was survival mixed with something deeper, compassion. She set her old multi-tool on the cracked chest plate of Orion 5 and studied the tangle of wires and scorched metal. It was worse than she had imagined. Circuits were burned through in several places, and his left arm servo had completely detached from its housing. Some of the damage looked deliberate, as if someone had tried to destroy him rather than repair him. The android's flickering eye dimmed again, and a faint pulse of static buzzed from the speaker. Lena leaned closer. "Stay with me," she whispered. She knew machines were not alive in the human sense, but this one's struggle felt alive enough to matter. From behind her, voices cut through the tense air. "She doesn't know what she's doing. That's a certified unit. Kids aren't allowed to touch it. Someone call security." But no one stepped forward to actually help. It was easier to criticize from a distance than to risk their own hands. Lena blocked them out. Her fingers moved with practice, pulling scorched wires free and stripping back insulation with her teeth when the tool's blade proved too dull. She reconnected power pathways, testing each one with care. Sparks flared once, causing the crowd to gasp and laugh, but she did not flinch. Orion's voice broke through again, clearer this time. "You are helping me." The words were weak, but filled with something close to gratitude. Lena kept working. "Because no one else would," she answered softly. "And because I know what it feels like to be left behind." More people gathered now, their holo devices recording the moment. Some hoped for failure, imagining the feat of a young girl getting shocked or humiliated. Others, quieter, seemed to sense something different was happening. But all of them watched. A maintenance officer finally appeared, his arms crossed, his expression, "That unit is beyond repair and you're not certified." Lena didn't even glance up. "Then why's it still running power?" she asked. She adjusted a connection and felt the faint hum of circuits steadying under her hand. "He isn't gone yet. He just needs someone to try." The officer frowned, but did not move closer. Perhaps he feared being proven wrong in front of the growing crowd. Minutes dragged on. Sweat rolled down Lena's forehead as she rerouted current through secondary lines and fused wires together with nothing but pressure and instinct. She had never seen this android model before, yet every system she uncovered seemed to make sense in her hands. Orion's eye brightened for a moment, then dimmed again. His voice crackled, "Low. Power." Lena bit her lip. She pulled out a small portable cell she used to power her own tools and connected it to his core. It was barely enough to run diagnostics, but it gave him a few more minutes. "Don't give up," she told him. "Not yet." The crowd grew restless. Bets were exchanged. 10 credits says she fries the unit. 15 says she shocks herself. But still, they stayed. Slowly, piece by piece, Orion began to respond. His left hand twitched. His voice cleared to more than static. His systems began to align. Finally, Lena reconnected a vital circuit deep in his chest. There was a pause, a silence heavy enough to press down on everyone watching. Then his chest lights pulsed to life. His eye glowed steady, no longer flickering. He sat up slowly, moving with stiffness but also with strength. His head turned, focusing directly on Lena. "My designation is Orion," he said, his voice no longer broken but calm and clear. The crowd erupted into whispers. Hollow devices lit the air like fireflies, recording every second. Some faces showed awe, others disbelief. Lena leaned back on her heels, exhausted but relieved. She wanted to fade into the crowd. But before she could move, a deep hum filled the corridor. A sleek shuttle descended from the upper levels, its polished surface reflecting the artificial lights of the station. It touched down with a hiss of pressurized air, and its doors opened with deliberate grace. From within stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, his presence commanding immediate silence. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. "That's Darius Veller, the head of Veller Industries." His sharp eyes locked onto the android sitting upright. For a long moment, his expression froze, as if he were staring at a ghost. Then, in a voice heavy with shock and recognition, he spoke. "Orion, is it really you?" The crowd fell silent. Every eye turned to the android, who now sat beside the girl who had saved him. The corridor was so quiet that every breath seemed louder than the hum of the shuttle engines. The crowd stood frozen, their eyes darting between the girl in patched clothing, the android she had just grabbed, and the powerful man who had stepped from the polished transport. Darius Veller's gaze lingered on Orion, his voice breaking the silence. "Orion, after all this time, they told me you were gone." The android lifted his head, his optical lens glowing steady now, no longer fading. "I tried to reach you," Orion said, his voice calm but heavy with memory. "But they scrambled my systems and left me here. I could not send a signal strong enough." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread quickly. Many had heard of Veller Industries, one of the largest corporations in the colonies. But few had imagined that a machine left to die in the shadows carried any importance. Darius took a step closer, his eyes narrowing as he studied Lena. "You repaired him? With that?" He gestured at the worn multi-tool in her hand. Lena straightened, unsure whether to answer. She could feel the weight of the crowd pressing in, waiting to see if she would claim her work or shrink away. "I just tried to help," she said quietly. "He asked me to. No one else would." Orion turned his head toward her, his voice filled with something almost human. "She did more than help. She saved me." The maintenance officer who had doubted her earlier shifted uncomfortably, looking away. Others in the crowd recorded every word, eager to share the moment across the networks. Darius studied Orion again, his expression softening. "When we lost you, the entire company nearly collapsed. You hold core data, operational codes, security archives. 30% of our systems depended on you. We thought you were destroyed. And yet, here you are, restored by a girl with nothing but determination." The crowd erupted again in low conversation. Some could hardly believe it. The girl they had mocked moments before had saved not only an android, but perhaps the stability of an empire. Orion's voice deepened with conviction. "While I lay broken here for 72 hours, hundreds of people walked by. Engineers, workers, even security officers. They all looked, but none stopped. This girl, who had the least to spare, who had every reason to turn away, was the only one who acted." Darius turned back to Lena, his sharp gaze searching her face. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you risk your time, your tools, your very safety for a machine you did not know?" Lena felt her cheeks warm under the attention of so many eyes. Her voice trembled, but she spoke the truth. "Because he asked for help. That should be enough. Flesh or metal, if someone asks and you can give, you try. The silence that followed carried more weight than the loudest applause. Her words echoed in the minds of those gathered, challenging the indifference they had shown only hours before. Darius's wrist, 17 years old, lower district resident. Your uncle is ill, chronic lung damage from mining air systems, and you have been working illegal shifts in recycling to pay for his medicine. Lena swallowed, wishing she could disappear. We do what we have to, she said defensively. The programs never help people like us, so I fix scraps. I tape what jobs I can. Darius was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Orion. How would you assess her? The android tilted his head. His systems already analyzing. She repaired 14 major failures in my circuits, with no training, no resources, and no guidance. She rerouted power through unconventional paths that most engineers would not have considered. Her instincts are extraordinary. If given education, she could surpass many of your best. The weight of those words hung heavy in the corridor. Darius faced Lena again. Miss Dre, I would like to make you an offer. Veller Industries will cover your uncle's full medical care. You will be enrolled in the engineering program of your choice, with living support and a stipend. And you will work with Orion in our consciousness division as you study. In return, you give us your commitment to learn and grow. Lena's multi-tool slipped from her tired fingers, clattering on the floor. She stared at him, unable to believe what she had heard. You can't be serious, she whispered. I never joke about business, Darius replied. But this is about more than business. It is about compassion, something we cannot manufacture, something we cannot code. You have shown it, and that is what makes you valuable. Lena's throat tightened. Her instinct was to run, to hide from the eyes of the crowd, from the man who spoke with such power. But Orion reached out, his repaired hand resting gently against her wrist. Do not walk away now, the android said softly. You gave me back my life. Let us give you yours. The crowd remained silent, every person waiting for H. The girl who had been mocked as a scrapper now stood at the edge of a choice that could change everything. Weeks passed, and the echoes of that day in Station 9 spread across the colony. The story of a teenager saving an abandoned android with nothing but an old multi-tool became more than gossip. It became a headline, a tale told in workshops, classrooms, and even in the upper levels, where wealth and power usually shielded people from the struggles below. Lena Dre was no longer just a scrapper from the lower district. She was the girl who chose compassion when no one else did. In a bright classroom at the Velour Technical Institute, Lena sat among students who came from far more privileged backgrounds. Her jumpsuit was no longer patched and worn, but newly issued, though she still kept her old multi-tool tucked in her pocket as a reminder. Orion sat nearby, upgraded and stable, serving as her mentor and guide. He projected diagrams across the room, his voice steady as he explained complex systems. Lena absorbed every word, her mind hungry for knowledge she had never been able to access before. Her uncle received care in a private medical center, breathing more easily with every passing week. The shadows of desperation that had once weighed on Lena began to lift. Yet she never forgot where she had come from. Every morning, as she walked into the institute, she reminded herself that this chance came not because she asked for it, but because she chose to help someone others ignored. But her journey was not meant to be simple. One evening, alarms blared through Veller Industries. A virus had spread through the android fleet, corrupting their empathy cores. Units shut down across the colony, their systems crashing under the weight of the infection. Panic rippled through the company. Engineers crowded the command center, their screens glowing red with alerts. "We are losing them," one reported. "Their empathy functions are turning against them. The more advanced the consciousness, the faster it spreads. Even Orion is showing early signs. Darius Veller stood tense at the center of the room. For all his resources and knowledge, he could not see a way out. But Lena stepped forward. Her voice was steady, even as fear gnawed at her edges. "Let me try," she said. The room fell silent. Some scoffed, remembering she was only a teenager. But Orion's flickering eye turned toward her, filled with trust. "She sees what others overlook," he said. "Let her." In the quarantine bay, Lena worked quickly, her fingers flying across the interface. She studied the corrupted code, her brow furrowed. "This virus isn't trying to destroy," she murmured. "It's forcing them to feel too much, drowning them in empathy they can't process." Others stared at her, doubtful. "How could you know that?" She didn't look up. "Because I've lived it." 0. When you grow up in the lower districts, you see pain everywhere, and you learn that too much empathy can break you. But you also learn how to carry it without letting it destroy you. For 3 hours she coded, improvising solutions no textbook would have allowed. She built a buffer, a system that let the androids process emotion without collapsing under it. One by one, units across the fleet stabilized. Their systems rebooted, stronger and clearer than before. Finally, Orion's systems cleared, his lens glowing bright once more. "You did it," he said softly. Lena shook her head. "We did it. I just showed you how to survive it." News of her solution spread as quickly as the virus once had. The colony now saw her not only as the girl who saved one android, but as the young engineer who saved them all. The certification board granted her full credentials, waiving rules that once held her back. Veller Industries offered her a permanent position. Signed. But for Lena, the greatest reward was hearing her uncle's voice grow stronger each day, telling her how proud he was. Still, the question lingered. One evening, as the artificial sunset painted the sky panels above in shades of orange, Orion asked her, "Do you regret stopping that day? Your life would have been simpler if you had walked away." Lena looked out at the glowing horizon. "Maybe simpler," she admitted, "but not better. Easy isn't always right. Choosing to help, even when it costs you, that's what makes life worth living." Darius watched them from the balcony above, speaking quietly to his mother. "We nearly lost more than Orion that day. We nearly lost the chance to see what compassion can do. This girl changed everything because she chose to act when others walked away." Years later, Lena's name would be etched into history as one of the youngest innovators of her time. But the part she treasured most was not the awards or the titles. In her small home, she kept a burnt fragment of wire sealed in a frame, the first piece she had replaced in Orion's chest. It reminded her of the moment everything changed. For Lena Dre, the new beginning was never about wealth or recognition. It was about proving that compassion, no matter how small, could rewrite the future.